Welcome back to the Casting Call cEDH podcast. I'm Blake.
I'm Chase, and today we're going to be talking about how to get into cEDH. They don't want to be seeing me the whole time talking, but that's not the point of what today is. Today we're actually talking about how to get into cEDH, kind of like how we did as well, but also some pointers for people trying to get into the format as well, because there's a lot of people, it seems, that are starting to gravitate into this format, whether it be our local meta. We've had some comments here recently, like one guy talked about how there's 10 and 20, I think he even said 20K events popping up here and there, and it's just more and more content's being put out there. So there's a lot of good stuff happening, but nothing that really kind of fills that gap on okay, but how do I get into this?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I think that was the big problem that I had when I first wanted to get into the format too, is there's plenty of channels out there that make content on gameplay and just other stuff related to that. You have different, they'll showcase different decks. They'll showcase the gameplay side of stuff. They'll talk about cards and stuff in the format. But then for the longest time, I felt like I kind of sat in this weird limbo where I wasn't necessarily, I was aware of what the format was, and I was aware with what was going on, but I wasn't in the format. I wasn't playing. I wasn't doing anything. I was slowly amassing these cards and building a deck on the side, but I had no one to play it with because I didn't know how to actually get into cEDH.
Right. No. And we've kind of talked about our experiences off and on, before we got into cEDH, but we haven't necessarily dove completely into it. I wasn't even looking to get into the format. Actually, I had taken a lot of time off from playing Magic, and I was playing things like Pioneer and Modern and Standard and things like that at the time. And I actually I just randomly showed up at Hobby one night with a couple of trade binders trying to rebuild my collection, and that's whenever people recognized me and told me to get back into it. And they were like, yeah, everyone's playing EDH now, and here I am at Hobbytown, and there's literally 50, 60 people sitting down at tables just playing nothing but Commander.
Yeah.
I'm like, do I really want to do that? And then I did it.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have the kind of the background that you're talking about there, where you had a lot of exposure through a bunch of different content, and you're getting all these ideas or keeping up with these tournaments or seeing all these gameplays being, put out. I wasn't doing any of that. I just kind of dove head first into it, I feel like. So.
That's fair. Okay. See, I wasn't playing any other format in Magic though. I've never been one of the guys to do the 1v1 stuff, and I've played draft, and I've drafted some stuff, and this is, I don't know which format. I don't remember. I don't know. I honestly still, even as being in the game, I don't know what any of the fucking formats are. When people say Vintage Pioneer, I literally don't keep up with it. Commander, EDH is the only thing I play.
Yeah.
But I've done some draft, and I remember at one point, this was forever ago, but one of my buddies was really, really, really into Magic, and I looked up a deck because again, I didn't know the formats, and it was some weird Simic blue-green madness deck with lots of discard effects to turbo out creatures and stuff like that. It was a weird deck, but it was something that I had found. I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just throw this together. Why not? And I found the cards for dirt cheap because they weren't expensive at all.
Yeah.
Built the deck, threw it together, and then I was like, okay, cool. We're just gonna play this, see how it does. And it was cool. It was a neat deck, but I just fucking hated the one-on-one aspect. I would have much rather been in Yu-Gi-Oh! At that time doing that. But then once I found Commander and I saw it was a multiplayer thing, it was it scratched this totally different itch. I was like, oh, this is fucking cool, dude. There's politics. There's just this different level of you need to, you can be competitive, but you can't be overly competitive because there are other people at the table too that could just absolutely fuck you if you're not careful.
Well, when you're talking about that stuff, it brings me back to a video we put out a few weeks ago, the casual versus competitive video that we did. And there's a dude that commented on there about how EDH is almost more like a board game itself. He was trying to draw more of the point to the casual side, but even kind of bringing that into what you're discussing there, as far as like when you're playing a 1v1, like you don't get those kind of interactions. You're not thinking of the politics. You're not thinking about what everyone else is doing. You are just focused on your game plan and trying to win. And whoever the first person hit 0 life out of 20, there you go.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it's like it is a lot more like the board game, where you're having to kind of figure out your opponents and try to anticipate certain moves and be able to use your pieces the best of your advantage and things like that. So, he brought up a lot of really good points in saying that, because I think that is something that I think people don't recognize that happens even at the cEDH level.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people are expecting that more potentially at the casual setting.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It might be more intensified. Like, if someone's trying to sit down and play a tabletop version of Settlers of Catan, and then they go to a tournament, or like using Warhammer as an example, potentially, because we got a bunch of Warhammer people in our community as well.
Yeah.
Like, casually sitting down and playing Warhammer versus going to a tournament and playing Warhammer. It's like two different things, but you're trying to get the same experience all around out of all of those things. It's same thing, for those that are trying to get into our format. Like, I think that is a good way of trying to look at it. Like, okay, it's the same thing I'm trying to do here potentially. It's just intensified, and it's going to be done in a way where it's going to be more competitive. But it's like you've talked about before, like the moment you sat down and realized what it actually was, like you had more fun with it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. Like, and obviously I don't want to ramble on too much, because people have heard me, like if they've been on the channel before, like they've heard me say a lot of this stuff before, but I feel like the casual crowd, like, and when I say casual, I know people are like that word encompasses so much of Commander that, some people will like, you think about what cEDH is, it's this very small like subset of all of Commander.
Yeah.
So when I refer to the word casual, I mean like anything that is not cEDH. So like, I mean anything. You can still be playing high powered, I'm going to consider that casual. Like I lump all of that stuff together, even though it's not necessarily casual. I just lump all that into like that umbrella term. But I feel like people playing casually could really benefit from coming in and like playing cEDH, simply for the fact that you get to see where a deck's limits can be. Like you get to really push the boundaries, push the limits. You get really familiar with a deck. You can get really good with that deck. And then from there, you're scratching that competitive side of things to where you're like, okay, cool. Like the purpose of this specific thing is to make sure that I'm winning. And then after that, we go back into like the casual side of stuff. And then I have no expectations for how those games go. Like, I don't care if I don't win. I don't care if I don't get to do my thing. I'm obviously going to try my best in those games still. Like, I'm not just going into it being like, well, fuck it. I'm going to be like, just, I don't care. But like, I'm not upset if if I could show up for a whole, night of like Friday Night Magic, playing with a bunch of my buddies and play 6 games. And none of the times my deck does the thing that I want it to do. And I'm like, oh, well. Like, it just does not bother me at that point, because like I don't have any emotional tie to that game. I'm just there to have fun. It truly does feel like the setting down to play a board game. We're just drinking with some friends, hanging out. And then when I sat down at a cEDH table, if I played 6 games in a row and my deck didn't do what it was supposed to do, I'm fucking changing decks. You know what I mean? So it's like my expectations are totally different, but it allows me to have more fun with both, because you get to scratch the like more casual side of things, and then you get to scratch that competitive itch. And so it causes me to have more fun going into like all the games in general. So I feel like people could benefit from both sides. Like people in cEDH, if they've never played in a casual setting, dabble in that, see what people are talking about when they use that term casual, or like when they say that something's not casual. And then same thing for the casual crowd. Come and see what cEDH is. Realize that it's not just a bunch of turn 1 wins, turn 2 wins. Like, we have games that literally last over 80 minutes. Like, they last a long time sometimes. Like, and then you get a feel for it. You're like, oh, okay, this is what this was like. Oh, this is what this was like. And then I feel like people would, I feel like it would just make the whole community itself a little bit healthier, if that makes sense. Like, then people would kind of have an idea of what should fall where. Like if you're wanting to play this specific archetype of deck, you should be like, oh no, like that actually does feel more like it's placed. It feels like it should be more placed here.
Yeah.
Versus like, oh no, like this would never last over here. Let's play this more over here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's the difference between like I'm gonna play stacks versus like I'm gonna play token spam generate, you know, like something, or like I'm gonna play super friends. Like probably more over here in like the casual side versus like I'm gonna play stacks. You should probably gravitate more towards like over here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think as you're talking about that, like I'm going back to when we had initially covered like some of these concepts. It's like, what word do we put in place? Are we putting in mindset, attitude, whatever it might be? Like that's where I kind of jump to as you're talking about those things, because like that's where I think that people really start to like either try to draw the lines in what that actually is, or their reasoning for going from one end of the format to another, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're trying to be more like fluid with it and have kind of an open mindset. It seems like it in both ways, and I think that that's an important thing whenever you're getting into cEDH in particular. And like you were saying, like you can learn from both things, but like you have to be that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that I can offer when getting into the format is just being open-minded to whatever types of experience that you are going to get out of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, even though, and you know, I might kind of jump back and forth here, but like no matter what kind of content's being put out, you know, no matter what anyone else is talking about, like if you're trying to get into cEDH, you got to start with your local meta. Yeah. And that's, you know, we've learned from our experience, our local meta's all over the fucking place. It's starting to finally get to a point where it's like a little bit more streamlined and consistent with some of the top decks. But I tell you what, we had stacks everywhere. We had like a bunch of turbo shit. Like there was no true mid-range build, I feel like, within our local meta. It was either like Crick, Rogsai, and then like Ken in there for the longest time, or you had like Urza, Blood Pod. There's like a few other stacksy Elevere, fucking Sovala. Like you see it, we fucking got it. Like it's wild, but you know, just be open-minded to whatever it is that you're going to be expecting at your locals. But, you know, we may have gone off just a little bit. I don't know if we did or not.
No, and I think that, again, like I think that was more of like a what to expect, or like what's the reason for getting into the format.
Yeah.
I think like when it ultimately comes down to like getting into the format, the biggest thing is I feel like people, for some reason, we separate the two formats more than what we probably should. Like it's ultimately like when I build the same exact way, minus like a couple of things, but I build pretty similarly whenever I'm building like a casual deck versus like a cEDH deck. It's the same thing I told you. I find a color pile. I keep saying color pie, but color pile that I want to be in, and then I find a commander that fits within that I'm like, okay, this is what I want to be doing. And then after that, like I'm throwing a bunch of good cards in the cEDH setting. I'm just like, this is what I would consider like your staple stuff, and then I'm going to kind of work around from that. Whereas like in a casual setting, I am more building from like a template, if that makes sense. Like I'm saying, like I want this many draw engines, I want this much removal, I want this much ramp, I want, you know, this stuff, like I want to run at least this many lands. Whereas like in cEDH, like I don't really fucking do that.
You'd almost think it's the opposite. It should be.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, I just want good cards, and then we'll figure it out from there. And if I feel like I'm not, if things aren't, you know, but that's one thing that I will say is like I play test the stuff that, like I play test the edits from cEDH much more than I do from like casual. Like sometimes I'll build some stuff in a casual setting, and then if the deck just fucking sucks, it's all coming apart. Yeah. And then I'm putting something totally different together. Whereas like in cEDH, I may throw something together and I'm not totally taking the deck apart and like reworking. I'm only changing like 3 cards or 2 cards or something like that. You know what I mean? Like with Xur, it's at the point now where like I'm changing like 1 card at a time just so I can like get a feel for it. And sometimes like I make that change and immediately I'm like, oh, that was a great decision. And sometimes I make the change and I'm like, fuck that, going back. and then I will like maybe I'll still keep that same card, but I'm like that was not the card to cut, and then I cut a different thing. You know what I mean? So like that process is a little bit different, but I feel like as far as like getting into the format, you could really turn you could turn a lot of stuff into cEDH. You may not win as many games as what you'd want to, but like if you pick a decent color shell and then just kind of play good stuff and then maybe add a little strategy built around your commander in there, you could pretty much turn any deck into a cEDH deck. Like I said, like some decks are going to win way more than others, but like for the most part, that's not a terrible strategy, and then just kind of going from there. But I think people should look at decks that they already like, try to turn that into a cEDH deck, because I feel like you will have more fun playing that than just immediately jumping straight into like, I'm going to build the best thing, because you have no idea how the fuck it works. Like, don't go straight to like a Nagila or like a Blue Farm or any of this stuff. Maybe start out with like, I don't know, you're like, oh man, I really love this weird Sultai deck that I threw together, like a Muldrotha or something like that. Like, not necessarily going to be great in cEDH, but you may end up finding a Muldrotha build that's like pretty decent in cEDH. Like maybe you found this really neat combo where you're like, oh yeah, no, I do this thing that allows me to get back the consultation from graveyard, and then I do the Thassa thing. Or maybe you don't even use that strategy. Maybe you found this like unique thing, and then ta-da, you've gotten into the format and you kind of enjoyed it, and then you tweak it from there. But I really think that people place too much of an emphasis on like, just like you got to immediately jump to the best thing. You can there are like stepping stones to that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. No. And I get what you're saying, because a little bit of a story time. Okay. So whenever I was getting back into Magic and I started playing EDH, and like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, like my first deck that I put together back was Urtet. And the reason I did that is because I was still in the mindset, like I don't really want to play this format, but this is where everyone is playing right now. So I was like, I need to play this in order to get back into the community. I actually started having fun with it. And then fucking Phyrexian, the Phyrexian set came out. And then the Traxxas got spoiled. And I went, fuck, I want to build that. Okay, so this is a story time of that deck and how it propelled me into cEDH. So I was looking at a bunch of different cards that I wanted to use for it, like a bunch of like things like that would flicker, or like at the end step would bouncer and abuse the ETB. I didn't fucking know shit about like Displacer Kitten lines or like anything like that. And eventually over time that I did, but it wasn't until I had built a version of it that was like a Traxxas stacks, where like I had put in, like I was abusing like Kodama, that like whenever something enters the battlefield, you put something else into your hand. And like I eventually built that deck to the point where it was like Kodama, Elish Norn, like doubling Kodama triggers, being able to blink a Traxa, and then like layer the ETB where I'm like getting all these cards, and then I'm still putting permanents into play like right after that because of Kodama. Like I was like, this is fucking fun. And then I sat down with Carson and Aaron, both playing mono-colored decks between Urza Stacks and John Crick, and got my shit fucking pushed in so hard. And I was like almost in shell shock. I was like, what the fuck just happened? I actually had someone like that was watching the game that night message me, and they were just like, dude, like Atrax is okay, but it's just not that great of a deck, and their decks are at this level, and like it's, you know, maybe you could do this too. But like in my head, I was such in shock, but I was like, no, I'm going full cEDH. I went into research mode. I started looking up everything that deck is trying to do, and I fucking cleaned house at times with that fucking deck once I got it on track. But that was the reason I'm bringing all that up, is because that was my journey of taking a deck that I really started to like, and then start like seeing all these pieces and they're working well, but then I get in that one pod and it just changed everything for me. And that was the moment it changed the entire course of my cEDH journey. That was the one game that did it. And from there, like I built Blue Farm, I put together Sisay, I put everything together. I'm like, I'm never letting that shit fucking happen again. But that's just me, because I have that fucking competitive spirit in me, but it was, I bring all that up because you use the example of like take a deck that you really enjoy and then over in time being able to like make tweaks to it, make adjustments, being able to take things out, and then eventually you kind of refine it to the point where you're only taking a few things out. But then there's going to come a point in time too where if you do really start enjoying this format, you have an experience like that, it's like push comes to shove, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Are you going to just say fuck it and get out, or are you going to keep going with it? And I think that's the breaking point a lot of people see with cEDH at times. If we're kind of going back to like separating the two, shit like that happens and they're like, I don't ever want to fucking experience that again. But it's not always going to be that way, because most of our experience since getting into the format and actually playing at a more competitive level, like we've had a lot more fun with it compared to casual or like a bracket 3 or anything like that we've talked about before.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's so wild is like people look at the format as like unfun. And I think it's because of the term like competitive. I don't know. For some reason, they think that means that like everybody's just cutthroat and they're trying to win. When we sit down and play games, we're still having a good time. Like we're joking, we're cutting up. Now when you're in like a tournament, it's a little different of an environment. Okay, like you are playing to win for sure. But at the end of the day, like you can still have a ton of fun getting into cEDH. I had fun playing casual Commander. I found cEDH, and I'm not gonna fucking lie. After that, I never looked back. I was like, oh my God. And I still play casually with my friends. Like we were trying to meet up the other day to go play some casual.
Yeah.
I have no problem playing casual, but I am genuinely serious when I say, when I sat down with them, I don't tweak my decks to meet like some weird like power curve or whatever. I have multiple decks built that can kind of fall like anywhere in that like curve of stuff. So I just know like when they play stuff, I will pull a deck out if I feel like it's a little too shitty. I change it to a deck that's doing a little bit better or a little worse or whatever. Yeah. But like, I'm totally not, I do not care what happens. Like somebody targets me from the get go. I cast my commander, they kill it. I'm like, okay. And I just put it back in the zone. I have no problem with it. I'm like, whatever. I keep playing and I still will win games and I'll lose games. And I'm like, whatever. But it's made it so much more enjoyable. Whereas like, I feel like some people, they build these decks with the expectation that they're going to get to do the thing. And then when they don't get to do the thing, they naturally do what people do. Like I was saying, they either cut it completely, they take it out. Like they completely disassemble the deck and they build something totally different. So you never even got the chance to like play that deck. You have all these extra cards laying around. It's kind of like it can get expensive. Or they go, well, I'm going to make this deck better. And then you're kind of like slowly gravitating towards that cEDH side. But like, I don't know. Maybe if it was like called something different rather than like competitive Commander, maybe if it was just like, I don't know, like high-powered something. I don't even know. But like maybe it would have a better stigma around it. But I feel like that's what people think. Like competitive equals unfun. Like sweaty, get that shit out of here. Like we don't want to, like you guys are dickheads. Like everything lasts one turn. It's like, no, like, I mean, it is fun. And like if it's something to where you want to get into it, the community is actually really welcoming, believe it or not. Yeah. Like people may think that they're not. But like everybody that I've met's been super cool, super chill. You will have obviously outliers in anything. But I've had worse experiences in casual or like in that lower power setting way more than I've had in like the competitive setting. Most of the times when I'm playing competitively, it's a ton of fun. People are willing to like help you, show you, do stuff. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen in casual. I've had plenty of people that were like, yeah, let me help you out. Let me, hey, would you like to use my deck? Like things like that. Yeah. Like, here you go. Like plenty of nice people there. But I've just had more bad experiences in that setting because, again, people invest money into it, and then they go, hey, I want to do really good with this. Like, I want my deck to do its thing. And then, us coming from a situation where, like, it's still a game, you want to win, somebody does something, and you're like, oh, that's not going to go good. If you've come from a competitive setting, you can go, hey, that's going to get you a lot of resources, or, hey, that's going to put you really far ahead. And I don't have things in this deck that can kind of swing me back into that, if you get too far ahead. So then you kind of address the problem. You're like, hey, you're becoming a little too much of a problem, and you stop somebody. Well, then they can get upset because they're like, well, what the heck? Like I wasn't doing anything. And it's like, no, like maybe to you, it didn't feel like it was going to be that big a swing, but like this was a pretty big thing. Whereas like in a cEDH setting, I'm expecting that. Like I cast a Smothering Tithe and someone goes, fuck no, you're not getting a Smothering Tide. Then I'm like, that's fair. You know? And I understand, but you have to try. You gotta be like, fuck it, I have to try. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Can I win? No, you can't win. Like, force of will. And you're like, I gotta try, you know? So I think that it's just one of those things where I think that to make the healthiest balance, I feel like people should dabble in both. Like, try a little bit of both, see what you truly like, and then just play what you want, obviously, at the end of the day. But I do think that it would help get the competitiveness out of some people's like systems so that they have more fun in the casual or like lower powered play setting. And then for the people that do always play cEDH, they should play a little bit of casual so they can understand like what people are looking at that have never played in that setting that are saying, hey, this card's really good. But then you're like, no, that's dog shit. But then you're like, no, like actually in their deck, that would be really good if you were playing in that. You know what I mean? We just don't see that because like that's never going to be good over here. But for their deck and for the setting that they're playing in at the power they're playing at, like that's a pretty good card.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I feel like, but I definitely think that it's a lot. I feel like it is easier to get into cEDH than what most people probably perceive it to be.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like taking that step, like that initial step.
And I think in the efforts to try to figure out how to take that step, like just kind of, I guess, recapping so far what we've talked about and like highlighting those main points of like, you know, whether it is you're the type of person that feels more comfortable kind of doing more of the research, like figuring out the types of decks that are in the format, like seeing a bunch of content out there so you can kind of understand what it's like, or you're like me and just dive straight into whatever, you know. But I think with both, whether you are one of those people or not, being able to go into it with a sense of openness to where you're not allowing some of these like preconceived notions or like maybe some stigmas about the format to like really sway your opinion on it, but also not having super high expectations with it in the beginning. And I say that for a couple things. Like, one, not just the expectation a lot of people have of like, you know, where the format is like, oh, by turn 2, turn 3, there's already a win on the table. No, I mean, the other day, whenever your friend was here and we were playing, you know, and they had kind of walked in on the game we were recording, and they were like, the game's already gone to time. I thought cEDH was supposed to end on turn 2. Like, no, that's not how it works at all. But then the other part where I say like, don't have, you know, super high expectations, I think it kind of goes back to where we're talking about the deck building part of it too. Like, yes, I agree with you in saying like, you know, if one really good way of getting into it is like start with a deck that you really enjoy, or maybe even start with your casual deck that you're enjoying and then tune it, or like see how far you can push it into that cEDH category. Like, you know, you're trying to test the waters with something you feel comfortable with, but don't have like that super high expectation of like, this is going to go and like, you know, place first in a tournament, you know, right away. Like, maintain the mindset where you're trying to have fun with it and trying to get better and learning, and then be able to continue to adapt things over time.
I would be willing to say, and like keep in mind, like this obviously is a big statement, but I would be willing to say that I think most decks, obviously there's some out there that are just going to have a hard time, but I would be willing to say most decks could be built into a cEDH deck. I do not think very many decks could be built into tEDH decks, if that makes sense. Like,
no, that makes sense.
Yeah, like most decks could be built and played in a cEDH setting. Obviously, you're still going to have some that are just going to be awful. Like, it just would not make any sense. But you still, if it offers a good shell, you still could potentially do something with it.
Well, and but I think that kind of goes with the brackets, though. You know, like that's why me personally, I kind of would almost view like bracket 4. That's what's supposed to be optimized. Is that what that is?
That's right.
Like, I almost think that is like a cEDH bracket. Whereas bracket 5, which is labeled the cEDH, I feel like that's tEDH.
I mean, you talked about that.
Yeah.
Because like I remember when we were talking about the brackets, I said, oh, we can just talk about them together because they feel the same. But then I was like, actually, now that you say that, I feel like optimized feels like cEDH, and I feel like the cEDH feels more like tEDH when we talked about it, because you are building around a specific metagame strategy, and one versus like the other one is like you're trying to optimize the deck to be as strong as it can.
Right.
But that may have a limit to it. You know what I mean? Like like Asika is a good example. Like Asika is a pretty decent deck. It can do really, really well in a cEDH setting. And it has taken down like some tournaments and stuff. It's a deck that could also be played in like a casual setting. So it kind of fits anywhere in that category. But then like Muldrotha, again, is like another deck that I kind of go back to where I don't think I've seen a Muldrotha cEDH or like a Muldrotha tEDH deck. I've never seen Muldrotha top a tournament or like do well in an event or anything like that. Yeah. But I'm sure that you could still build that as a cEDH deck. Like I would almost be willing to bet that there's probably a way that you could do something just crazy like that.
Yeah, I think Muldrotha play like there's some display circuit and like Lotus Petal loops.
Yeah.
In it for like infinite mana and things like that, where you're like blinking the Muldrotha and then like
cast the Lotus Petal.
Cast the Lotus Petal and then like being able to like generate mana that way, but then like you still had to find a way to like get to your win cons.
Yeah, well I think that no, that makes a lot of sense because great example. Like there you go. You just basically talked about a deck that somebody may really like and they could turn it into a cEDH deck. But
right.
In a tournament setting, that's probably not going to be like in that situation. You'd probably be better off playing something like Glorb instead of Muldrotha. You know,
or even though we've kind of both talked about like tEDH Thras, like you probably want to be playing it over Muldrotha right now.
What is the deal with that deck? That deck is not good. You keep bringing this deck up. It's like, I feel like this is the Princess Bride. That you keep saying that thing. I do not think that means what you think it means.
I mean, it still plays Thrasios. It can't be that bad. Yeah. Like just I still
play
feel like
Armix Thras or something. People aren't on Armix right now. I think that would be better than tEDH Thras.
Or just play Rogue Thras.
That's the right option. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it bad? Like I know it's good. I know it's placing. I'm just the hot take is I'm still not sold on that deck.
No, and I get it, dude. I've told you I don't play. And like again, this is a good example for people that are kind of hesitant to get into cEDH, but I don't play top decks. Like I genuinely enjoy the fun of looking at decks that technically shouldn't be top meta contenders and just finding ways to like throw a deck together and be like, how good can this be? And I enjoy doing stuff like that. And the nice thing about our format is that you can proxy. Like the format's proxy friendly, and that's probably something we should have started out from the get-go saying is like, I would say most people's issue too is like they look at the price of a deck. I was freaking out when I saw the price of a cEDH deck. I was like, that is so much freaking money. Like I want to play this, but like it's gonna take me years before I'm gonna be able to actually play. And then I literally talked to somebody and they were like, just fucking proxy. And I was like, what is that? And they were like, just like go get proxied cards or like go print stuff off,
print it out,
cut out, put it in front, write on like those little cards that they have that are blanks. Like do whatever you got to do, but like we'll play. Like and then the whole saying of like I would rather play against you, not your wallet type thing. If you want to play a deck, just proxy it out and like see. It allows us to test out a ton of decks. There's no way we could do the gameplay we do on the channel if we had to own like everything. Chase could, but I could not.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Just because you watch me like go and like pick all my shit apart like a bad man, just putting 100 cards together, like
it's a thing of beauty.
It's a process,
but it really is a thing of beauty. But it scares me at the same time. Because like when you start throwing stuff down, I was like, dude, I'd have fucking lost like 4 of those cards by now.
4 duels on the floor right there.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, but seriously, but no, like, so like you can try and test and play whatever you want to. And like, kind of like what he was saying, like, you know, you look at something like Rogue Thras. That's a fantastic deck right now in the format. And if somebody wanted to proxy it out, they absolutely can. But if you think that you're like, I don't really, like I'm not sold on that deck. I think this other teamer list is going to be better. You can throw that together instead and say, hey, let's try this and see how that goes. And then that's how Flubs was born.
Hell yeah. Flubs the best timber deck. The best.
Yeah, Flubs is technically.
I'll die on that hill.
He's technically a 0 drop.
He got big booty though.
0 power.
0 power. So, but yeah, no, I can agree with that. Like, you know, you don't have to play the best things in order to be competitive or be playing in this format. And just as much as Blake brought up, like it's super proxy friendly. Now, we say that, and a lot of the tournaments in our area are not proxy friendly, but I think that's just where we're at. If we go through the decades, it's not no proxies allowed. If we go to Somerset, no proxies allowed. Like even at Hobbytown, I think it's supposed to be no proxy, but I think people still do it anyway.
Well, a lot of times they'll have like limits. Like I think theirs is technically like you're not allowed more than 5 or 10 proxies or something like that.
Right.
But then they also have limits on like you can't proxy out things like Time Twister or like Candelabra, things that are like ridiculous amounts of money. But at the same time,
that's where they're still doing a bunch of like rule zero type stuff even with that. But like I think that now's a good time. I think that brings up a point of like now's a good time to get into the format because people are still trying to figure out where it needs to be at. And so even though it might feel like everything's kind of all up in the air, I would almost say there's probably more changes in the lower brackets right now than there is in our format. As far as, if you're trying to play in a bracket 4, bracket 5, like, yeah, there's running the risk of being like severely impacted by bans and unbans or anything like that. They're not planning on banning anything the rest of the year, but like, this is an eternal format that hasn't seen a whole lot of change. Whereas like I said just a second ago, the lower end is seeing a lot of change at the moment. And maybe if you're a type of person that has either played Commander for a long time and doesn't like some of those changes, or you've played other formats and like you've experienced what it's like to have like a bunch of bans or things like that, I don't think that we see that as often. Like last year was a pretty rare thing. And a pretty drastic thing, but I think that's what they're trying to do is prevent something like that from happening again.
Yeah.
And I think that really puts our format in a good position whenever you have people that are trying to be caretakers of it in that way.
No, and I definitely agree with that. I think that right now is a great time to be getting into the format. I mean, there are fringe decks popping up all over the place. Like people creating new decks and like testing stuff. And also one of the nice things about this format too that I think is probably one of the coolest things is that there really is a huge community piece to cEDH that people don't talk about enough. If you have a commander that you want to play, there's probably a Discord for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you can go and like I mean, and not only that, people are constantly brewing stuff. They're constantly trying stuff. Literally, like I'm in a Discord specifically for like Zur the Enchanter, and then I'm in a Discord specifically for Esper commanders. And like in that Discord, it is like it's an Esper Discord full of every single like Esper deck that you could be playing. And then inside of them is like links to Discord specifically for that. Plus there's conversations going on within there on like each commander has its own channel. So there's like a Zur channel in there. And then in that is a link to the Zur specific Discord.
That's pretty cool.
I've found one for like things like Sakashima Timna, things for Hashatan, things for Tivit, all sorts of stuff. It's literally called Amanatu and her Esper Friends.
Oh, okay. That's
really cool. Yeah. But I mean, there's huge community piece to it. And literally people want to take these things to the tournaments and like because of that, and like they want to do good. So because of that, the people are incentivized to make decks really good. So if you have a deck that you're like, hey, I want to see if this is cEDH, you can probably find a Discord for the deck, and there are people that have probably helped you workshop the deck already. And then it's just up to you to say, do I like the way that this plays or no? And then you create changes. And then if you go and you do really well at a tournament or you find some like cool new piece of tech or whatever, you get to be the person going into the chat being like, hey, look at this cool thing that I did. And then everybody's like, whoa. And then, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're looking for a community and you really want to dive into something, cEDH is a great place to be. Like, honestly.
Absolutely. And there's another Discord you forgot to talk about. Our Discord. Link in the description. Not link, but invite in the description. But no, like I completely agree with you on that. But I think that another step even beyond that, as far as like those talking points again of like how to get into cEDH, like whether it be online or in person, figure out what's going on in your local communities and figure out who are the people that you want to like really gravitate towards and like you feel open enough to ask questions, because I think that's like something that's key to getting into cEDH is like, don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to try out different things, and don't be afraid to share those things with others, because that's how you start generating ideas. That's how you start generating more interest. That's how you actually get into what it is we're trying to do. And if you can figure out, like, within your own local community who those people are, and then just expand upon it, like, you're going to have such a much more enjoyable time with it.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely 100% agree with that. I think that that's probably one of the nicest things about just this format in general, honestly. Yeah.
Silence.
That's a good card.
It is a good card. Mr. Esper just fucking depending on all his fucking silence effects that he can. How many silence effects are you running in a deck right now?
Like 4 or 5, I think. Something like that. I think like a silence, voice of victory, Ranger Captain, Grand Abolisher, and then so 4 technically as of right now. I've honestly
just throw Teferi in there.
I've thought about doing it, dude. Honestly, I don't think that the problem with Teferi is that it's kind of the same thing that I was telling you, like Teferi and also things like what's the other one that I can't think of? The artifact.
I don't know.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Defense grid?
Defense grid, yeah, D-grid. Like, the problem with those two is that if you fuck up, you're really giving the win to somebody else. And I don't want to be that guy. But I would like to jam both of those. I think that would be a lot of fun.
This is a really good example of, like, talking to people in your local community and figuring out, like, what works and what doesn't work. Like, I'm sure Blake, I know for a fact you've talked about this before, but there is one day that we met up at our local shop, and I don't think we may have played some like 1v1s or something like that, but like there wasn't a whole lot going on. There wasn't enough people to get a pod together, and we were sitting down and working on Xur together. And he was like pulling out cards from it, like Lava Spur, was it Lava Spur boots and like Lightning Greaves and things like that, like trying to double up on effects like that. I was just like, but how are those cards gonna ever help you win or some shit like that?
Yeah, you were like, now what do these cards do if Xur's not out? And I was like, not a fucking thing. And I got them immediately.
But like it's moments like that I'm talking about. Like, we could sit here, we could laugh about it, but those are the kind of experiences that we want you all to have with people in your community, to where, like, even if it just turns into like an inside joke or like something that's funny, like that's what gets you to that point where it's like, oh, this is really fun. What else can I do in Magic? Mm-hmm. Like, how can I get to that next point in it? And I think it's moments like that help people take that next step into it.
Yeah. Honestly, the biggest thing, and this is the one thing that I will say, the biggest thing, do not be afraid to just, if you already know of a group that is playing cEDH, I can promise you, like, more than likely, if you say, hey, I would like to learn cEDH, or I want to get into cEDH, they're going to be welcoming. If they're not, obviously fuck them. But for real, honestly, fuck them. Like, we don't want them either. They send them to like Vintage or something. I don't know. But like, I don't know what that format is, but I just said a format. But for real, like, if most people are going to be like, oh, you want to play cEDH, let me help you. And then, like, if you sit down with a deck, they're willing to help you. So do not be afraid. It took me, I probably waited over a year before I finally like sat down with a group of people and said, I want to play cEDH. And that was a year's worth of time that I could have been playing cEDH, that I was not playing cEDH. I was just watching play to win videos. I was watching like spike feeders. I was watching, like, I mean, I literally had seen Cam and them Cam and Hired on them, that game I was talking about, where they were on like the Professor's channel. I had watched one cEDH video, I think, where like even the Command Zone played cEDH on their channel. I've watched, I was just watching all sorts of stuff, just anything I could consume about the format. It got to the point to where like me and one of my buddies were literally doing 1v1s. Like, I was playing Xur, he was playing Shorekai. I made a TikTok video talking about my favorite deck, and I remember specifically it was like, what is your favorite creature in the deck? What's your favorite sorcery, instant, all this stuff. And I go back and I watch that video because I looked at it the other day. I don't play half of those cards anymore because they weren't cEDH or they just weren't good. And I was like, like I waited forever to get into the format. And then one day I just had a bad experience with my casual group. I walked in, I literally like sat down and was like, hey, and I remember it was Aaron, Brandon, and dang, I wish I could remember who else was playing with us. I don't think it was you. It wasn't you. I forgot who else was playing with us. There was someone else that was playing with us. But the three of us sat down. Maybe it was Leo. I don't remember. I can't remember who the fourth player was, but I don't know if it was Leo. But I sat down and literally Brandon handed me an upgraded Pantlaza deck that he had made that wasn't fully cEDH, but it was upgraded, and I literally won with it. Like, first time playing a cEDH game, like true cEDH 4-person game. Won. I was like, wow, that was fun. After that, dude, I came back the next day and was like, anybody playing? And it just so happened that they were doing the cEDH tournament that day.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh. And so I entered with Zer, and I won my very first game. Like, one, I was like, oh my God. Played my second game. I won that game. I was like, oh my God. Played my third game. Got demolished. Like, fucking wrecked, dude. It was bad. But I was like, oh my God, this was so fun. I do remember who else it was. You know Theo?
Yeah.
Yeah, Theo. But I just remember that. But super fun, dude. Like, and it was so great. And I genuinely wish that I could have went back and done that sooner rather than waiting that long, because I missed out on like so many opportunities to experience the format while it was live in that moment. Like, obviously formats change and things shift. So I missed out on a whole year of like what the format was that I'll never get to experience really. But then also I missed out on like a year's worth of like experience, friendships, fun, like all this stuff that I wish I would have just immediately got into it rather than like being afraid, thinking like, oh, those guys are going to make fun of me because I use proxies, or they're going to make fun of me because I don't know what I'm doing, or they're going to make fun of me because I play casually, or like they're not going to be nice. Oh, they're going to be tryhards. They're going to be like, you know what I mean? And then in reality, like I come in, they're like, hey, here's this deck. Try this out. Like, hey, man, come sit down. We'll teach you. Hey, like, oh yeah, like what do you want to play? Oh yeah, there's a really good deck, and you know, and it was super fun, super welcoming. So definitely, like, if you're even on the fence about like going and trying to play, just go ask them for a game. Even if you fucking suck, just go ask them for a game. And then if you have questions, ask them, because they will teach you.
Yeah, I mean, people have been having to fucking reteach us as we've been put out gameplay, apparently, because like even, and I think that brings up a good point too. Like, mistakes are going to happen. Like, misplays happen. They happen even in a tournament setting, and I've either partaken in it or I've witnessed it. You know, just kind of watching and like surveying from the crowd as games are happening. Like, mistakes happen in this format too. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Like, because that's how you get better. That's how you learn. That's how we have continued to either get better or as we try to continue to put out like gameplay content, being able to like really make sure we're catching those things in the moment. So that way we're trying to reduce as much of it as we can, but don't expect the format as a thing where mistakes don't happen, because it happens all the time. So
I probably fuck up once a game.
Once a game?
Multiple times a game, but...
Or once a play.
Yeah, you just don't catch all of them.
I go back and I watch.
Yeah.
I catch everything.
You catch everything?
Yeah. No, he really doesn't. He doesn't.
I don't know. I don't edit that stuff. If you're watching this right now, it's because I edited it. If you're watching the gameplay, thank Chase.
They're going to be like, the gameplay fucking sucks.
No, they're not. They're going to be like, just quit the fucking podcast. You suck. Just gameplay from now on.
No, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop.
Stop it.
But, I mean, other than that, like, you know, aside from addressing, like, you know, whether the research into things, the mindset or attitude portion of things, the financial obligations, the types of communities you want to be in, like, I feel like that's really just about it. Yeah. Like, those are the biggest things I think to kind of be able to reflect on and evaluate and kind of determine, okay, am I going to jump into this?
Yeah.
But overall, like, don't let that whether it's anxiety or fear or whatever it might be, don't let that get the best of you, because it's like Blake talked about. It could hold you back from actually enjoying something that you never knew was a possibility.
Hell yeah.
So, but I mean, other than that, those of you that have been playing cEDH for a while, let us know how you all got into the format. Whether you've been playing for the past few months, year, 2 years, 5 years, doesn't matter. Drop some tips for other players that are looking to get into this format, because I think that is the only way that we can truly build a community in this, is just sharing that information and helping others grow and learn from it.
Also, just because I'm curious, if you made it to this point in the video, even if you play casual and you don't play cEDH, or you do play cEDH, put your favorite commander in the comment section, because I'm genuinely curious to see what people are playing right now. Yeah.
If you weren't playing Xur right now, what would you play?
If I wasn't playing Xur right now?
Yeah.
Oh, I really want to play Marnius.
Marnius?
Really
Fucking Esper. Of course.
Yeah. I just really want to play Marnius.
At least you're consistent.
Cool. Huh?
At least you're consistent.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still all over the fucking place with
dude.
Whatever I do.
Yeah. I just love Esper. That shit's cracked, bro. It's so good.
We talked about that last week. We didn't rank it very high, did we?
I mean, it made it to A tier.
Did it? I don't remember.
I edited that video and I don't remember it.
This is how much we play it. Everything is just off the cuff, and we're just like, fuck it. Yeah. So
we do the opposite. We do shitty quality and shitty like effort.
Oh, full circle moment just then. So I mean, with that wrapping us up there, do you have anything else?
No.
For this one? All right. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. If you made it this far in the video, drop the comments, like, subscribe, and as always,
go play some cEDH. We don't ever think this shit through.
We do a little bit.
Yeah, it's like 4 seconds before the camera starts rolling.
That's okay.
No.
Well, I was watching Mind Sculptors earlier today, and that's what they were talking about, is like they used to have like a really like laid out, structured, and like scripted like thing that they would always say, and now they're just like, oh, fuck it, whatever comes to mind. I guess.
Yeah. Dude, I saw a thing the other day that it was really funny, but this guy is like, he's really successful as like a podcaster, like you have people on there for business and stuff. But the whole thing that he says is people now have gravitated towards low quality, high effort videos. He's like, if the quality looks like dog shit, like if it just looks like you just threw your camera up and started going, they're like, it looks real, it looks authentic, people love it. But then like you got to put a lot of effort into like making the video good as far as like the content.
Yeah.
They were like, but people don't want to see this fucking jump cut like 24/7.
Oh God, no. I hate that. But I don't know where we stand on that. I guess we're kind of, I don't know. I want to say in the middle. Not necessarily the jump cut. We don't do too much of that. But
No. If I had to fucking edit one of the first episodes I ever edited, it was like anytime one of us said something, even if we just were like, yeah, in the middle of us talking, I'd cut it back and forth. Fuck that.
It's too much time.
There's times where one of us will be talking, but it'll only be for like 2 seconds. And I'm like, fuck it. They're just going to look at the other person's face. Yeah. I'm not editing it.